Hi crafty friends, this is Danielle from 11 Dancing Dandelions here to show you these daddy books in honor of Father's Day this Sunday that will be available in my Etsy shop tomorrow, Wednesday, the Wednesday before Father's Day. I should have looked up the date. I don't know what the date is. I'll put it in the description box what the date is, and they will be available in my shop tomorrow, Wednesday. Date in the description at 6:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I'm going to do a flip through today of them. And first, I just wanted to thank you guys so much for all of my new subscribers and for liking my videos and obviously subscribing and leaving me comments. It really means a lot to me, and I really appreciate it. So I just wanted to throw that out there. What I would love for you to do, if you could, for me on this video is leave me a comment. My goal is next week to do some kind of tutorial, and I would love to hear what tutorial ideas you have for me to do for my first tutorial. So if you would do that, I would so greatly appreciate it. Anyhow, let's get into these little journals for dads. And I think it's so fun because I was looking through my YouTube videos, and I don't think that I did a YouTube flip through of the junk journal that I made. I think it was last year for Father's Day, of the Handyman Binder book. But that was my first time making a kind of man themed daddy journal, and it was so fun and I really enjoyed it. One, because I got to use a lot of I kind of got to stretch my creativity a little bit, because I'm so used to doing like children's things or women, themed things. So it's really fun. If you didn't see that, or if I don't have a YouTube video, I have a flip through, I believe, on my Instagram account. If you don't follow me on Instagram, you can check me out there. Same name, 11 Dancing Dandelions on Instagram also. So anyhow, so I made 3 this year, 2, regular bound and 1 ring bound. And so we'll start with a regular bound. So there's a little golden book and a ding dong school book. Daddy's, A Day Downtown with Daddy, and then the ring bound one is called the Daddy book. So let's just start with Daddy's. Again, just some fabric tie. This one's really simple. It's single layer. Nothing special about it. You really don't need a tie if you don't want to. I have these things stuffed full. They will come with a little bit of a goodie pack. If you've purchased from me before, they might not come with as large of a goodie pack because I put a lot of things in here. But they'll still come with whatever I didn't use that I pulled. I will put together, spread out through the 3 of them, and give to you guys. So this is the little golden book, Daddy's. I think this is my favorite cover of all of them. I did put some buttons on the spine. They're just glued on. And this is the back cover. And then, so these are really stuffed full. And if you want, depending on how much you want to add, you may need to take some of the things out. But, it's very flexible. A lot of stuff is clipped in with paper clips. So, like I said in my last video when I did the preview of these, I did decide to leave the inside cover alone, because the colors go so well and it's so nostalgic and it's in such good condition that I just wanted to leave it. So that's the front and that's the back. I did line some vintage rickrack here on the front and on the back. And I don't know if I mentioned the front has some rickrack also. They will come with book corners, or if you purchase this journal or the other ones and you want book corners and you want me to put them on, just send me a message when you purchase it and I'd be happy to put those on for you. Some people like book corners and some people don't, even if the corners are soft. So I kind of try to leave that flexible, but this does have some writing. So It was from a nursery at a Methodist church. And let's see. The copyright on this one is 1953. And then on the front here, I'm hesitant to tell you guys what I did with these because I don't want to be responsible for anybody ruining their machine, but I stuck these through my Sizzix machine to flatten them. They're vintage bottle caps, so that I could use them as tabs. I thought about doing charms for these, but they just give me too much of a feminine vibe that I wanted to just kind of use them as tabs. So I thought this one was perfect. Dad's old-fashioned cream soda. And I wish I had some. They have labels like this. I wish I had some of the labels, but I don't. And this is an image from a vintage reader that I just made into a pocket. This is from a vintage quilt. You'll be seeing quite a bit of vintage quilt stuff from me soon because I've really been on a kick using vintage quilts and harvesting them. I love the old vintage fabrics. This is just a recipe card. This is not vintage. This is from Hobby Lobby. And it's just kind of, you know, some dads cook and barbecue, that kind of thing. So I thought it'd be fun to include a recipe. This is some vintage wallpaper and a vintage matchbook that I just folded over to create a tab. Let's see, this one's for a drinking saloon, I guess you would say. And a vintage date book page. And this is an authentic vintage ice coupon. Some fabric ruffles here, a lot of things paper clipped in. This is a printable. I will put the shop that I purchased these printables. I think it's pretty printables, or I don't know. I'll put the name of the shop in the description because I don't remember. But I have a ginormous pattern catalog and some home catalogs, and I'm running out of the male versions because if you have one, you know that there's like only a few pages in there that are dedicated to men's clothing for some reason. So this is authentic vintage. So this was from one of my clothing catalogs in an authentic vintage milk cap. And this is some really cool textured paper. I believe it was resume paper maybe, and I did add a little bit of tea dyeing to it, and then I just made some washi taped stamps. And here's a vintage button card. A lot of people will punch this little circle out here and put some ribbon or fabric through and kind of turn it into a journaling card, and you can do that. I just kind of wanted to leave it flexible. And this is a page from the book, so it's like some daddies are this or that. Some make planes fly. This is from a vintage stock market game. Both of these are, and it's an investment game. So I thought it would be, some of them are bear market, some of them are bull market. It's just a fun, you know, I'm stereotyping, but a lot of men are into airplanes or barbecuing or let's see what else is in here. Airplanes, fishing, boats, that kind of thing. Trains. This is from a really old train magazine, and you will have to kind of reinforce if you want to keep this a page. You may have to kind of add some fabric washi to the little spots where you will handle this paper a lot. The other option is you can absolutely just pull this out and kind of tug on it, and it will come out of the signature. And the rest of the signature will be fine. I've done it plenty of times. And then use this for collaging. So that's another option. I did try to leave some blank space so that you can have your own area to do what you'd like. This is not vintage. This is, I believe this was from a Tim Holtz kit. I did make some fabric washi. And this is a little die cut, printable die cut that I cut out and paper clipped here. I did some fabric washi, and both of these are Tim Holtz, I believe. Tim Holtz or something similar, purchased They are not authentic vintage, just kind of collaged here for decoration. What do daddies do all day? Daddies work while children play. So like I said, the book is all about daddies and what they might do. I made a little collage here with some vintage fabric and a vintage postage stamp and ice coupon. And then this was, it's a piece of scrapbook paper, I think, or something that was in a little ephemera pack that's purchased. So that green grid is not vintage. And this is the other part of the vintage catalog page. This is also a printable that I just backed onto some cardstock, stitched around, and put some fabric through. Some of my little snippets with fabric as a tab. This is a vintage price ticket on that wallpaper. Some more little fabric washi that I made. And this is a tag made from some vintage quilt. I thought it was perfect because of it's raining here and it has the umbrella. But this does have some stain. It's clean, it's absolutely clean. It's just stained. So the quilt had imperfections and it made me feel way more comfortable cutting it up than if it didn't. So if that bothers you, you know, it is only paper clipped in, so if you don't like that. And then my Pops root beer, I thought that was perfect Pops for dads. And I did do some fabric triangles here stitched along, and this is some really neat, it's almost like tracing paper thickness that's also graph paper. So the box said engineering paper. There's a time card and a vintage game piece here. I don't remember which game that came from. Maybe the stock market game, I'm not sure, but it was a vintage game. And another ice coupon with some stationery, and then more of that Train magazine. This is a large book that I have. It's basically newspaper articles that were saved and bound into a book. I can show it to you sometime. If anybody wants me to, it's a huge book. So if anybody wants some of these, I can definitely put a pack together and put it in my shop for you. Just let me know. And this is part of a vintage cookbook. And then the back of the page, there was some writing here, so I just put a little pocket. I collaged, this is again from a Tim Holtz. I believe it's Tim Holtz. It was from a little ephemera pack. And this is a vintage gum wrapper and a vintage postage stamp. And then this little outdoor entertaining flank steak barbecue recipe card. This is not vintage. This is from the same ephemera kit. This is some vintage stationery. And I did just put some stickers throughout, like cars. This was pretty neat. It's kind of like watercolor paper consistency, and it looks like it was dipped in some paint. Kind of a deckled edge there. And then some ledger paper that I made into a pocket. There's nothing in this pocket, and I just lined it with some fabric. This, you'll see, I have some farm journals coming up also. You'll see these. I got these at a vintage big like art show type of thing, a pack of these, and I guess they were used to label the livestock for sale, but I think they look, you know, they could go with man theme or farm theme, that kind of thing. And then this was from a vintage, or it was not real true vintage book, but it was a book about the fathers, and I just cut these out and made a bunch of journaling cards with them because I thought they were cute. This is not vintage. This is also from the ephemera line, as well as this. Some tea-dyed paper. This is from that same book about dads. This is vintage postcard and just a little Tim Holtz tag. And then this is from another vintage matchbook. Some more washi tape. another ice coupon. This is some flocked vintage wallpaper. And then I took a greeting card. See if I added some cardstock, and then it's kind of a vellum-y texture, and I just folded it over here and made a little flip. So you can either keep it as a flip and then do your journaling here, add photos, writing, whatever. Or if you don't like that, you can tack down here and make it a little tuck. So it's kind of flexible. And then this is a vintage label. It's a scalp stimulant, so Glacier Rub. And then more of the book page. I tried to leave a lot of the scrapbook paper open. So this is from a vintage magazine. I just took the image, cut it out, backed it onto some cardstock and stitched around it. And then a little ephemera piece, not vintage, and then a vintage postage stamp and collaged here to make it a little tuck spot. And I just tucked some scrapbook paper and some stationery. It's like a tool and die stationery. And this little kind of like a project-like card. And then this is instructions for a model airplane. So each of the journals got part of this. I thought that was fun. And some vintage wallpaper. And this is authentic vintage little ticket here. Some more vintage stationery. More ledger. This is a really neat postcard. It's from 1954. I think it's in Spanish, but it's really cool, I think. Some more cookbook and matchbook ephemera here. And then I took some index cards with the letters and just kind of collaged. So these are some saving stamps, some play money, and this is just a sticker from Hobby Lobby to kind of just create a little cluster here. Whenever I give play money, this is kind of why I mean, you can do a million things with it, but this is what I personally do in my journals with the play money, is just kind of use it in collage. And then there's just different things here. So there's a little canceled check, some more scrapbook paper, and engagement. This is from an engagement book that you could definitely just journal on. Paper bingo, which is great for mounting photos. So if this would be a little bit too big, you'd have to trim it down, but they're really good to put photos behind, even if it's like this. All right, and then a vintage photo. Let's see. I don't think this one has a date. I would guess like 60s, maybe late 60s, early 70s, maybe, of a dad, and it looks like his son. And then I took from a vintage magazine. This is just pasted down, and it's just a tuck spot on both sides. And then another time card. This is a first day issue with an airplane envelope. And a date, a calendar page, and then another authentic vintage photo of some men fishing in 1950. A little coin wrapper, some shop preparation. I don't know what that was used for. I should look that up. Shop aid. I think I just picked it because it sounded like it would be for a man, but who knows? I should look that up. All right. Oh, like barber shop. I think that's why I did that, because they're talking about barbers. And some more stationery, another little recipe card, another printable here, some vintage playing cards as tab, the bear market. This is also from a vintage magazine, and another little snippet of vintage wallpaper. A little tag and just a piece of scrapbook paper. So some of the tags I left like this so that you have the option of either tipping them in, using them as tags, or gluing them or double-sided taping them down to make them as tuck spots. So I did try to leave some versatility there. And so that is the end of Daddy's. I hope you've enjoyed that one. For a day downtown with Daddy, I'll try to go a little bit faster because I'm already 20 minutes in. But I want to be able to show you guys and tell you what's vintage and what's not. Especially for the new subscribers, they might not know what I've added that's vintage or printable. So this is some washi, fabric washi that I also glued down just because I didn't have a trim that I really liked with this cover, so I made this, and then just some baby rickrack here. Again, the photo, or excuse me, not the photo corners, the book corners. If you want those, let me know. I'd be happy to do that. Some jumbo rickrack on the inside. Again, I left the front cover plain. And then I do try to include the front page so that you have the copyright date. This one's in Roman numerals and I didn't look it up. I'm sorry. But I can put that in the Etsy description. Some more fabric washi that I made here. Some aftershave lotion, a vintage label. That is vintage. Another vintage matchbook, and my sewing pattern catalog page. This is from a vintage magazine. Whoops, I missed a page. So that's that other half of that matchbook with the guy fishing. Oops. And some more tea-dyed paper with some postage stamps. And now we get to the vintage magazine with the postage stamp and some fabric. And then this is just a vintage postcard and some vintage wallpaper with some cars on it. That paper airplane. Some writing paper with fabric washi, a vintage card. So you can either choose to journal on this on the inside, or you can close it in and make it a pocket. Some more fabric washi. Another one of those divider cards that I made. And just some extras in here. Some of that stationery with an envelope. And this is not really, well, I guess it's considered vintage. It's 1993. I would like to think that's not vintage, but technically it is, just to play with. And then this one has a pattern page. I just opened the envelope and made it into a page. Vintage milk cap, and another one of those printable die cuts. Again, this is vintage from the sewing pattern catalog. This is not vintage. Another little soda cap here. Some more vintage wallpaper that's flocked. Time card, a ticket, some barbecuing, cookbook pages. This is from a vintage magazine of an El Camino. I just took some of that fabric and then a little, this is vintage, of a coffee coupon. I think it's a coupon. Another check, a postcard from a game, a Bond game, and a little, like, similar to Project Life journaling card. From a Sears catalog, and more of that vintage wallpaper. These are not vintage. More wallpaper. This is a cute card. It opens like this, so you have the opportunity to do journaling here, and then also opens here, and you have here. Now the pink doesn't really go. I don't know why they would have used pink, maybe because this is probably from the 70s, but so they wanted bright colors, But if you don't like that, then you can always close this in and make that part a pocket, and you still have that space, and that's a Rust Craft. Another one of those printables that I made into a tag. And this is, I wanted to clip this on. I was going to make it a tuck spot, but some people don't probably want any alcohol labels or anything like that in their journals. But this was, I cut it out from a vintage magazine, and I just thought, I don't know, for some reason I think about men having their cocktails or whatever. And this is a vintage yo-yo. Another vintage yo-yo there. Another Sears, part of the Sears catalog from a vintage magazine as well. And this was from a different game, so it's just a motorcycle that I stitched on. So I put some fabric there and just messily stitched that motorcycle game piece on. And this is not an authentic vintage photo. This was from the ephemera pack as well as that. But this is a vintage postcard. And another sales label that is vintage, as well as this coffee thing again. And so for this greeting card, I I glued it onto this piece of cardstock and then stitched around it. And then so you have this, and then I glued this down. You have this area, and then this is a tuck spot, and then this is a tuck spot. Here, so it's like a double tuck. Another quilt. Piece of quilt. This one has flowers, like a little bit of flowers, but overall I don't think it looks feminine at all, so I thought the colors looked cute with this. If you follow me on Instagram, you saw I posted this postcard, A Fisherman's Dream, this giant fish. I thought that was a cute postcard. It is written on the back of it. Let me see if I can make out the date. I can't make out the date. I'm not sure. Oh, 1980. So it's not super vintage, but. And then this is from the ephemera pack, not vintage. Another magazine image. I think this one was from National Geographic. I thought it was cute because he's fishing for a lizard in the desert and a vintage milk cap. Some more of that newspaper book and another vintage yo-yo. This is the image from the reader that I used, and then I have one of these divider cards. They're really thick, so if you wanted a writing board for this journal, that would be a good writing board. And then some Dine & Bowl stationery, and then some vintage gum wrappers. And I will say that each of the journals, each will come with a little snippet of gum wrapper chain that I have. And the reason I didn't glue it or attach it is because it does add a little bit of bulk. So I wanted to leave it up to the person that used it. If you want to put it in the journal, you might have to take out, you know, the fabric on this or something to compensate, but they're so nostalgic, and, you know, bringing out nostalgia in these journals, I feel like it's important because it sparks memories, and we're not children anymore when we're journaling about these topics. So anything that can spark our memory to think of stories or anything is really important. Another little root beer cap. And then another pen advertisement from a vintage, I think this was a National Geographic magazine. I think it was the back, actually. I just made it into little tucks. And then again, another one that I didn't decorate. I will add some fabric into each of these. So if you want to add a tab onto this, you can. Or you can, like I said, tip it in, make it a tuck spot, do whatever you'd like. So that is the end of Day Downtown with Daddy, the Ding Dong book. I think I'm going to come back to do the Daddy book, the ring bound, because my video is already almost 30 minutes. So stay tuned. I will record another video to show you the ring bound journal. Thank you. See you in the next video. Bye.